So today we're going to be building a Tinder clone. So Tinder is this, you know what Tinder is, this dating application when you can find people that is interested in chatting with you or whatever. So we're going to do that with React Native. And this is the application that we're going to build. For now, it's only this page. It's only the UI. There's no backend or anything like that. But I thought it would be cool to show you how it can be done with React Native. It's not a full Tinder experience. What I mean with that is in Tinder, you can take picture and move it whatever position. In this application, I wanted to keep it simple, so we just swipe right or left, and it's always in the same. You can see that it's always in the same angle, so it's in the same angle. But it's pretty interesting how we achieve this. And actually it's really simple. And you can see that we also have this like or no words there whenever we like or dislike a photo, and we can also do the same with these buttons. So that's basically the application, and now let's get it started. We're going to be using Expo for this application. It's going to be way simpler to do it that way. And for following the tutorial, you should of course have Node.js in your system, and we're going to install the Expo CLI. So you can do it with this command, npm install. If you don't have it, you can do it with this command. I already have it, so I'm not going to do it. And then we can init a new project with this Expo command. So let's open a terminal. I already have one, and let's start with Expo. After you already installed the Expo CLI, then you can start any project with Expo in it, and then you can give it whatever name you want. I'm going to call it Tinder clone, and this is going to ask me for several things. So we are going to start with a blank template. And then it's going to install all of the dependencies. This might take a while, so I will pause the video. Okay, the installation is complete. I am now going to cd into the new project. It's Tinder clone. And I'm going to open this project with VS Code. You can use whatever text editor you want. I'm going to use VS Code, and for doing that, I'm going to use this shortcut that will just open with VS Code the current directory. And we will have the following. So this is just a blank template that Expo create for us. We have this app.js file, and what I'm going to close this terminal, and now I'm going to use the terminal inside VS Code. And here I'm going to start the project. So for doing that, I'm going to run expo start. It's going to start a new development server, and then you can run this in whatever device you have. You can use an Android emulator or an iOS emulator. If you have, of course, you will need Android Studio for this one. You will need Xcode for this one in a Mac. You can also run it in your phone by scanning this QR code. For me, I'm going to use an iOS simulator. So that's going to open a simulator, and it's going to have our blank template. It's building now the JavaScript bundle, and we have our project here. So you can see that if we change this text, it should show right away in our emulator. So we're set up with the simulator. And next, I'm going to install one. We are going to use two external dependencies. The first one, and for that, I'm going to add a new terminal, and I'm going to add the first dependency that I'm going to use is Axios. Axios is a library to make API calls or HTTP requests, AJAX requests, and that's the library that I'm going to use for this project. jar add Axios, and the other library is the library that we are going to use to handle the swipes. So when you swipe left or right, and that library is a very popular library called React Native Gesture Handler, and this has a bunch of different components that we can use. The way we install this in Expo, we need to use the Expo install command, and the reason for that is because we want to make sure that we install a version that's compatible with Expo, and we just need to copy this command to install it. You could also do it with a better installation in an application that doesn't use Expo, but you can see that's quite difficult. Well, it's a different process there. We're just going to use the Expo installation. So let me go back here. We just paste this command, and this will install the dependency that we need. As you can see, we now have our library with the correct version. Okay, now let's go to the app.js file and let's start with the application. There's another library that we need to install. It's called Expo constants. It's a library that you can check a bunch of constants values from Expo. And we are also going to use Expo install for that. Expo install Expo constants. We can then import constants from Expo constants. Soon we are going to use this. I'm just going to import it for now. So let's start with the container of our app. We already have some styling. I'm going to remove this one. And what I'm going to add here is margin top. And the value of that margin top is going to be constants that status bar height. So I want to be aware of our status bar of the height. So depending on the phone, it's going to be different. And I'm going to add some margin so it doesn't merge with these symbols in this example. So that's what I'm doing that. I don't need this status bar component here, so I'm just going to remove it. I also don't need this text right here, so I'm also going to remove that. And I'm going to start with the top bar. So we need a top bar where we can select different tabs, and that's going to be another component, top bar. It doesn't exist yet, so let's create it. So top bar from, we're going to have a folder called components. We doesn't have it yet, but we're going to add it. So components, and here we're going to have a top bar component. All right. Let's now create the folder called components, and here we are going to have our top bar component. It's going to be a functional component. I have these snippets, really nice snippets, React Native snippets, React snippets. So you just type RNF and it creates a component for you. So I'm going to save this one and this one. We don't have anything yet, but we have our component there. So let's focus on the components. I'm also going to use style sheet from React Native. And here I'm going to start with the container. So this is going to be the container of our top bar. It's going to have a style of styles that container. We don't have this style yet, so let's create it. So we're going to declare a new variable, and here we are just going to create a new style sheet, and here we can declare our container style, and this is going to have a fixed height of 60. The flex direction of this container, by default the flex direction is column, but this one is going to be row. The content is going to be justified content is going to be spaced around, so our icons are around them. We are going to add some padding, 50, and we are going to have a background color of white. Okay, these styles I'm going to just copy and paste them. You can pause the video if you want to have them, but this is just a shadow that we're going to have here. We're going to have a shadow color of this color, an offset, the opacity of the shadow, the radius of the shadow, and also this element will have an elevation. So I can save that, and you can see that now we have our component here, our top bar here with the shadow. So this is what these settings are doing. Feel free to pause the video and copy these settings here. Okay, the next thing is I'm going to add some icons here that will have the different selectors for the tabs for this application. So I can import these icons. These icons already come with Expo. That's really nice. And this comes from Expo/vector icons. So @expo/vector icons. And here we have different libraries that we can choose from. We are going to use font Asom 5 and the regular font Asom. So these are the two libraries of icons that we're going to use. We are going to start with font Asom 5. And this component receives these props. First, the name. The name of the icon is, this icon is called fire. So this is the fire icon that we have in Tinder. Then we have to pass the size. In this case, it's going to be 27. And then we need to select the color. So this is the color that I'm going to use. I'm also going to copy and paste this color. Feel free to pause the video and copy this color. And you can see that now we have our icon there. So I'm going to copy this component 3 times. And for this one, we're going to use the font Awesome library, not the font Awesome 5, but only the font Awesome. I can actually just declare these components like this. They don't have anything inside, so I can just close them directly. And the icon for this one is going to be comments, and for this one is going to be user. So we have 3 icons here. This one will be for a chat functionality and a user functionality. And here I'm going to change the color of that icon. It's going to be like a pale gray, like a light gray. And also feel free to pause the video and copy these colors. So now we have the TopBar, which looks really nice. Let's move to this part. So this will be where the pictures that we can swipe. Okay, let's go back to app.js, and here we are going to have another view. So this is where our pictures are going to be, and I'm going to give it this style. That's going to be called styles that swipes. This doesn't exist yet, so let's create that. It's going to have swipes. It's going to have a flex of 1. So if it's all the content, we're going to add some padding. We want to have some padding, so it's not stick to the borders. It's going to be of 10. We are going to make the top one a little bit different. Padding top is going to be of 8. And then I'm going to add some shadows, some box shadows here. What we have is the same color, and also feel free to pause the video to copy this value. So we just have the shadow color, we have some offsets, we have the opacity and the radius, and then some elevation. And we don't have nothing yet because we don't have anything inside here. And what we are going to have here is the users. So first we need some users for having some data, like user pictures, names. And for doing that, we're going to use this nice API that's called Random User Generator. It's a free to use API, and you just make a get call to this URL, and then you have these kind of results like name, the email, the picture, and this is what we are going to use. So for that, we are going to use Axios, this library to making API calls, and we are going to have a function that's called fetch users. It's going to be an async function, so we are going to have a try catch block in case this fails. And what we are going to have here is we're going to deconstruct the data object of, then we're going to await for this call that's going to be an Axios that get. So this is a method inside Axios that we can use, and the first parameter is the URL. So this is the URL that we have in the documentation. I'm just going to paste the URL here, and I added some parameters. So the basic URL is just like this, but you can also pass some parameters like these ones. So the ones I used are the gender. You can specify the gender. In this case, is this gender, and how many results you want. And I want 50 results. So this is the URL that we are making the request. Then we are deconstructing the data object that comes from Axios, and then we are going to store these users in some state. So we need some state in our application. We're going to use React hooks for that, and we can use the use state hook for this. And we can just say const users equals use state, and we need to pass a default value and an initial value. The initial value is going to be an array, and we need the state, and we also need a setter. So we are going to deconstruct the second value of this use state hook. That's the setter. So set users is the setter function that we have here. And now we can just assign those users, set users. And as you can see here, where is that? we have, as a result, we have an array, an object that has a results key, and this is an array of users. So that's what we are going to assign. We have our data that users. If we have an error, we are going to just log that to the console. And actually, we need this API is not so stable. Is sometimes it fails. I guess because it has a lot of requests. So we are going to handle that, and we are going to because we don't want to provide bad user experience, right? So what we are going to do is we're going to use the alert component from React Native, and this alert component has an alert method that we can pass. We can just say error getting users. It's going to be the title. Then we need a description. We're not going to add a description, and then we can pass an array of buttons. So we can have different buttons that the user can interact with. So we're going to have only one button that the text is going to be retry. So, and when the user press that button, we are going to invoke this same function again, so we can try again. So we have our function it is not doing anything yet, and that's because we need to invoke at a given time, and the perfect time is when the component renders, so we can make this API call. And for that we can use another hook called use effect, and we can just when the component is mounted, we're going to call this function. So use effect has a callback as a first parameter, and in this callback we are going to fetch the users, and the second parameter is the dependency list that this effect needs, because it's the first render. We are just going to pass an empty array, and this will tell the effect that's going to only run once when the component mounts. So we can fetch the users, and maybe we can here log them to see that we don't have any error here. So console.log data that this is incorrect, this is results. Very important here, the property is not data that users, it's data that results. I made a mistake here, so it should be results, data that results, and we can just log this to the console. We can go back here, and you can see that we have our users. We have our users there. And that's nice. We can remove this log statement, and we are going to render those users in our application. So here we are going to have a conditional if our users that length is greater than 1. Only if that's true, we are going to how this is going to work is that we are going to map through all the users, but we are only going to display the user that's currently in the stack for saying. So we're going to have like a stack of users, and we're going to keep track of the current index that's in the stack. So I'm going to declare that here with another state, and it's going to be called current index, right? And then we need to set current index function here, and the initial value will be 0. So now I'm going to create a component that's going to render the user, the current user in the stack. So I'm going to call this component swipeable image, all right? And this is going to be another functional component, and we are going to read user from the props. So this is how we can read props from the constructing the parameters of this function. And here we are going to use from React Native. We're not going to use text. We're going to use the image component. So it's just going to be an image. Here we are going to use that image, and we are going to give it a source, and the source is going to be from the user. So the user is going to be the one from our API. We have a picture property and different size. So it's going to be user. Well, first we need to tell what kind of source is this, and this is a URI, which is a URL. And here we are going to read from the user picture that large, so the biggest one, and we are going to give it some style. And the style, we are going to have it below. Again, I'm going to import a style sheet here, and I'm going to create some styles. Style sheet that create, and this is going to be for the photo. Styles.photo, and our photo is going to have the following. So it's going to have a height of 100%, right? It's going to have a resize mode. Resize mode is a CSS property that we can use to make it fit in our card. It's going to be cover, right? And then we are going to have border radius, so it has some radius of 20. So we have our photo there, and now we can see if it's working if we import that here. Swipeable image from components, swipeable image. We can just pass this here. And the user is going to be from our users array. It's going to be the one with the current index. And you can see that we have our user there. For now, it's just static. It doesn't do anything. It's just displaying that. And we're going to fix that, but for now, let's render some other information of our user. So first, we're going back to our swipeable component, image component. And now we are going to add some text here. So we are going to have a view, and this is going to have some style, and this style is going to be in our object. It's going to be called text container. It doesn't exist yet, but let's create it. So text container, and this is going to have the following properties. Is going to have a position of absolute, because we want to place it in front of our image. It's going to be absolute. It's going to have a bottom of 20 and left of 20. So it's going to be placed right here. We have our container. Now we are going to add a row. So we are going to create another view. And this is going to have the style of styles.text row. Text row. Right. And now we are going to give it a flex direction of row. And we are going to align the items to the center, right? So we are going to have two rows. This is the first one. And inside this row, we are going to have some text, right? Text. And this text is going to be in curly braces here because it's a variable. It's going to come from our user name first, right? We have an error here, can't find variable text. That's because we need to import that from React Native. And you can see that now we have our name here. So that's the name. And the second thing is we're going to need the age of this user. So we have a DOB, date of birth property, and here we have age. So you can see we have the name and we have the age, but this looks really bad. So let's add some styles here. And this one's going to be an array. So we're going to merge two styles. We're going to have text primary, right? A text primary style. So be careful, this is an array for this case. And let's create that. And it's going to have color of white, right? White. We're going to have a font size of 25, and we are going to have a margin left of 10. Oops, left. Okay, we have our text primary. Yeah, let's also add a text secondary, and this one's going to have also white color. We are going to have a font size of 25. So actually this one is 35, right? This one is 25, and this one is the one that has margin. The secondary has margin left, not the primary. The first one, the primary, has a font weight of bold. Right, so we have that, and the age is going to have, let me copy and paste this one. The age is going to have the text secondary style. So we have the name and we have the age with some style, and the next style that I'm going to need here is some shadows. So I'm going to call this text shadow, and I'm going to copy and paste the following. So look, again, feel free to pause the video and copy this value. So we have a shadow color of this shadow color. We have some offset and we have some radius for this. So this is because, you know, we will have like a white picture, and we have the text is white, it's not going to be visible. So that's why we need some shadow to make it visible. And we are going to add this style here, text shadow. All right, so we have 2 items in this array of styles, and it's going to be the same for this one. As you can see, we now have the shadow that we added to our text. All right, now let's add the second row, and the second row is just going to have the location. So we are going to copy this one. It's going to have the same style. We need to close this one, and here we are going to add, well, I'm going to copy this. It's going to use this kind of style, right? The secondary text and the text shadow. But here I'm going to take the location, that city. And here we can see that we have the city of this user, and we can also add some icon, right? So I'm going to, again, from add Expo / vector icons, I'm going to use the font as on library. And here I'm going to use that icon. The name is going to be, the name of this icon is going to be map marker. So this is the icon that we need, and we can give it a size. The size is going to be 20, and we can also give it some color, and the color is going to be white. And now we have our icon there. Okay, so that should be the component for each individual user. Now let's add the bottom navigation. For the bottom bar, let's now create a new component. It's going to be called bottom bar. It's going to be a functional component. It's not bottom, it's bottom. Sorry. Bottom with M. Same here. All right, and now use it here in our app.js component. So just let's import bottom bar from components / bottom bar, and it's going to be placed here after this view, bottom bar, right? So it doesn't have anything yet, so let's add some stuff here. And what we are going to have is just 2 icons, right? So let's start with adding some styles. We're going to import a style sheet from React Native, and let's create some styles. Styles equals style sheet that create. And first we're going to have a container. The style is going to be in the container, that container. And our container is going to have a height of 75. It's going to have a flex direction row. And also we're going to define the content around the content. And we are going to align the items vertically in the center. We have our invisible bottom bar. Now let's add some icons. So these icons are going to be touchable. So we are going to import this touchable opacity component from React Native. We are going to have two of them, touchable opacity, and this is going to have some style that's going to be from our styles object, and this is just going to be called button. Okay, it doesn't exist yet, so let's create that style. It's going to have a width of 15, height of 15. It's going to have a background color of white. It's going to have a border radius of 25, so it's going to be a circle. We're going to justify the content to the center. We are going to align the items also to the center. And now we are going to add some shadows to the bottom. So for this one, I'm also going to copy and paste these properties for the shadows. We have the color, we have the offset, we have an opacity, radius, and an elevation. As you can see, we have this nice circle here. Here we can add, and we can click it, press it. Here we are going to add an icon. And let's import from Expo /vector icons. We're going to use the font as some library. It's going to be inside here. And this icon is going to be, the name is called times. It's just a cross. It's going to have a size of 27, and the color is going to be this color. So you can just pause the video and copy the color. We have our icon, and we're going to have two icons, right? And this one is going to be called heart, and we need to change the color. It's going to have this color, this right here. So we have our two icons, and well, it looks kind of weird that we have so much space between those two. So I will just add an empty view here, so these icons are closer together. So I added one empty view at the start, and I'm also going to add one at the end. So it's like we have empty buttons here, and it looks closer one to each other, and I like it that way. We have our UI. Now we need to make it work, so we can swipe left or right. So for that, we are going to have a new file called swipes. Okay, so this is a component that we are going to have to make the swipes happen, where we are going to handle the touch bands, and we're going to show different pictures. So I will use again my snippet to create a new functional component, and here I'm going to import my swipe bubble, and this component comes from React Native gesture handler. So this is the library that we are going to use to handle the gestures, and we need to go into the swipeable path. So we need to go there, and then we can import this swipeable component. And this is the component that we're going to use to render the images. So we're going to, instead of having this, we're going to use that component, swipeable. And this component has a bunch of properties that we are going to use. So the first one is the friction we're going to define, right? So we need to define a friction, and a friction is the delay that we're going to have between the swipe and the next gesture. So for example, if we assign one, it will be instant. So the moment we swipe, the moment the card will move. I will have it set to 2. So we have some friction there. It's totally up to you. You can have a different one if you want. The next prop that we're going to define is this called one left threshold. So this is going to we're going to have a threshold when the swipe will happen. So the shorter the number, then the more the more the closer will be to the left or to the right to open to the next card. So we will actually see it when we start testing our swipes. So for now, let's keep it like that, and we can have the same number for the right threshold. And here, this is important. So we need to render a component when we swipe to the left or to the right, and this is going to be the component is going to be behind this card, right? So we are going to have a component called render left actions, and we're going to define it here. We can say render left actions equals, and this is going to be our component. It's just going to be a functional component again. And here we are going to use another component from React Native gesture handle. So we are going to use from React Native gesture handler. We're going to use this rect button. It's just a button that we can render or swipe bubbles inside. So we are going to use this component, and in here, what's going to render is going to be the next photo in the stack, right? So we are going to import our swipeable image from the component that we just created from this directory, and this is what we are going to render here. Okay, so our image needs a user, right? So we are going to pass that user, and where that user comes from. So in our component, we are going to deconstruct the properties that we are going to pass here. So we are going to pass users, and we also are going to pass the current index in the stack of users. And here, the user that we're going to pass is going to be the next user in the stack. So it's going to be users current index. Remember that this is an array. This is what we're going to pass, this array of users that we get from the API, and this is an array. So we are going to pass the user with the current index plus 1. So it could be the next user in the stack. All right, so we have that for the left actions, and we are going to have the same for the right actions. And it's going to be the exact same thing. So here I need to return these components. Okay, so it should be like this. So here return, and I'm going to return this component. Oh, okay, so we have our actions. I'm also going to pass this render right actions, and it's going to be this one. Okay, and this is going to be what we have on the actions, but we actually need to pass a child to this component, so it will be the first component that we see. So that will also be an swipeable image or component, and this one is going to have the user is going to be users. From our users array, we're going to read the one with the current index. So we have our basic swipe, but now we need to let me add some styles. So I'm going to import the style sheet from here, and I'm going to declare some styles equals style sheet that create, and here we're going to have a container, and style is going to be just flex1, and what's going to have that style is going to be these buttons. So it's going to have styles that container. Those are going to be the styles for these containers, also for this one. So we have our component, but now we need to use it here in our app.js file. So I'm going to import swipes from components/swipes, and here instead of having this here, this component, we're going to have the swipes component, and this swipes component will needs, as you can see, needs current index and users. So we're going to pass that current index is going to be our current index state, and the users are going to be our users array. Okay, there was an error. Let's just retry. And here we have our swipes. And now this should work. As you can see now, we can see that there is something behind, right? But nothing is happening, and that's because we are not handling what's going to happen when we swipe left or right. What's going to happen is we are going to display the next, we're going to change the index, right? The index, the current index. So let's go in here in the swipe components. Let's check that everything is okay. And what we need to do is we need to listen to these properties that we have on swipeable left open. So this will trigger every time the left we open the left swipeable, and we here can pass a function, right? A callback. So what we need to do is we are going to handle. So how it works is if the opened the left right is opened, what's going to happen is we are going to like that person, right? So it's kind of weird, but if the left part is open, it's actually because we are going to like that person. So we are going to pass this handle like function that it doesn't exist yet. So this is also going to come from a property, because what we need to change is the index, and the index is in the parent component. So we are going to read that from a prop, and we are going to pass that here. And inside our app.js, here's where we are going to have our function handle like. And what this is going to do is just going to change the index. So we can say, just for testing, console.log like, and we can have another function that's going to change the index. So we can say next user. And what this is going to do, we are going to have a next index equals. So the next index just will be current index plus 1, right? But we have a little issue here, is because we are only having 50 users. If we reach the end of the stack, we're going to have an error. So what we are going to do is we're just going to read the users that length, and we are going to subtract 2, because we want to have two users in the stack before we reset the correct index. If the length minus 2 equals current index, we're using a ternary operator. If this is true, the next index is going to be 0. We are going to reset the stack. It's going back to 0. Otherwise, the current index is going to be the next index in the stack. Then we are just going to set current index is going to be our next index number. So this is what's going to happen when we like a person, right? So we need to set current index, and we need to invoke the next user function when we like a person. So we define our function, but now we need to pass that function in this component, and we just can pass the handle like function here, and it's going to be our handle like function that we have right here. And this should take care of having the next user. So if we do that, that should change. But we have a problem here. The problem is that this web is only working once, because if we have it this way, it's only happen for 2 users. We can't have like the whole stack. So what we are going to do here is we are just going to map to the users array. We are going to have a user and also an index, and with that information we are going to render our swipes. But we are just going to render that. We're going to render that only if the current index equals the index of this array. Only if this is true, only in that case we are going to render our swipe component. So this will cut every time we change our index, it's going to re-render this swipes component, and then we should have a fresh stack that we can work, so we can actually show the next user in the queue. So because we're using map, we also need to assign a key. So this is mandatory, and the key is just going to be the index. Now, hopefully if we swipe right, we should be able to keep swiping. Don't forget to save this file. Make sure you are passing the handle like function here, and that should be take care of our swipes to the right, so the likes. And you can see that now we can have a different person every time we swipe to the right. But this is not working to the left because we're not handling that yet. So let's do that. Okay. So to the left, it will be that we don't like that person, and in this case will be that the right action is open. So on swipeable, right open. So this will be when we swipe to the left, the right will be open. So we are going to handle the pass that we're passing that person, right? And this will also come from the parent component. We're going to have that, and here we are going to have a function. It's going to say handle pass. And well, if we had a database here, we will record that, right? But we are just going to log this, and it just needs to render the next user. We have our function, and now we are going to pass that in this component. Handle pass equals handle pass. So now if we swipe to the left, we should have that. It's not happening. Okay, the reason that we are not able to swipe to the left is because here in the swipes component, this is wrong. This is not render right action, it's render right actions. Okay, so I have this error. Hope you don't have it, and now it should work. So yeah, we can swipe to the left, and that will pass that person. This will like them. Okay, so now that we have that, our swipes are working, we are going to handle another thing, and that is that we are going to handle when we are about to like a person. We are going to see some feedback in the photo of that person. Okay, so let's go back to the swipes component, and here what we have is we have some special events. So we have for the left one, we have this on swipeable left will open. We have this event, right? So this will trigger when we are about to open the swipeable of the left. And what we are going to do here is what we need is we're going to keep track of that. We are going to have some state, use state, and the state that we're going to keep track of is going to be this one called will like, and we also need the setter will like use state false, and here we are going to have will pass, set will pass, and the initial value will be false, right? So we have those variables, and what we're going to do is we're just going to change those values to true. When on swipeable left will open, it means that we are liking a person, and that means that set will like will be true. And on the other case, swipeable right will open, that means that we're about to pass a person, so set will pass equals true. So we now know when this is going to happen, but we need to reset this to false, and we can do it just here. So once it's open, we can reset this to false. So we're not only going to handle the like, we are also going to set that variable to false in this handler. So set will like, and it will be false because it's already liked. And the same here. So we're going to invoke that function at the end, and then set will pass equals false. So we're keeping track of that, but we're not doing anything with these variables yet. So let's just pass those to this component. So we're going to do it here in the main component, in the component that's in the center, because that's the one where that's the person that we are liking, not the one on the left or not the one on the right. So that's why we only pass that here, and we can say will like equals will like, and will pass equals will pass. Now let's go to the swipeable image component, and here we can just read those values, will like and will pass. Okay, we are reading those values, but now we need to show something to the user based on those values. So what we are going to have is just going to be a conditional that will be only shown when this is true. So when will like is true, we are going to have a view, and here we are going to render some text. This text is going to say it's going to say like. Well, that happened, but you weren't able to see it because we're going to add some style here. Okay, so we are going to have here outside of this object, we are going to have like a box. So let's box style. So let's call this box style. And here, what we are going to have in this box style, let me just copy and paste this. Okay, so this is going to have a position of absolute. It's going to be the like box when we like the person. It's going to be a position absolute because we want to be this in front of the picture. It's going to be at the middle of the photo. It's going to have some padding at top of 10, bottom of 10, left of 20, and right of 20. Then we're going to have some border width and some border radius. And here we are going to say we're going to declare a like box style, and this like box style is going to have, we're going to express this box style here, and besides that we are going to say that this like box style is going to have a left property, so it shows with a to the left. It's going to be 40, and a border color, and border color is going to be, we already have some border properties here, border width and border radius, so we're going to have a border color of this color. So I'm just going to paste the color, you can just copy it, and this is going to be the box that we have when we like a person. And here we can just give that style to this component, so it's going to be styles like box. So now if we like a person, we should be able to see, you can see it's right there. We have the like text, and we have the box, but we also need to have some style for the text. So the style is we are going to use the style that we already have for the primary text. We already have that. So I'm going to spread those styles. So styles that text primary. I'm just going to spread that right here, as you can see, and then I'm going to add some color, and the color is going to be the same of this one. This is exact same color. So now we should have a big like there. You can see that we have it there, and that's for the like. And for the pass, we are going to have something very similar, but in here we're going to have will pass. This will say nope. And what's going to change is we're not going to use the like box, rather a pass box style. So we need to declare though that this style is going to be similar to this one, but it's going to be called pass box. It's not going to be on the left, it's going to be on the right. So we add that CSS property, and the color is going to be different. It's going to be this color. So feel free to pause the video and copy this color. It's going to be like a red. So we have that. And now we need we also need to use this color in here. It's going to have this color in the text. And now if we swipe to the left, to the right, we have that like, and here we have the nope. You can see that's in red. So we have those visual clues, which looks really nice. And now finally we're going to make these buttons work, because right now they're not doing anything. So let's go to the app.js file, and here I'm going to pass some functions. Let's create those functions. It's going to be handle like press, and here function handle pass press. We have the functions, and now we can pass those functions here, handle like press and handle pass press, handle pass press. We have the functions. Now we can open the bottom bar component, and here we are going to read those properties that we had. I'm just going to copy and paste the functions, handle like press and handle pass press. We have the functions, and here we have our touchable opacity, and here we have an on press handler. And what needs to happen if we press the times icon is that we are going to handle pass press, and here if on press we are going to handle like press in the heart. So we have our handlers, but now we need to make them work. So what needs to happen? So we need to trigger a swipe to the left or to the right. And we can do that with a reference to the swipes component. So if we go to the documentation of React Native gesture handler, we have a swipe or swipeable component. And right here, we can see that we have some methods, for example, open left and open right. So this is what we want to do. We want to invoke those methods, and we need to use a reference to doing that. But the problem is that we can only have that reference. We can only trigger that reference inside this component. So we need a way to use that component in the parent. And we can do that by using something called forward ref. So a forward ref, we can pass that component to a different level. Not only we can use that reference outside this component. For that, I'm going to remove this export for the moment. This might break your application, and I'm going to export. What I'm going to export is React that forward ref. So this is a method that we have in React that we can forward that reference. And here what we have is we have our props from the component, and we have the reference. And what are we going to forward is our swipes component. So this component right here is called swipes, is the component that we need. And we are going to pass a property. We can give it any name we want. So I'm just going to call it swipes ref. And what this is going to be equal is going to be equal to this ref. We are going to forward that ref, and then we are going to spread the props. So we have the same props that we have before. We have that, but now what we are going to do is it's going to work almost the same, but we now have access to this swipes ref that we passed here. And we can make uses of that ref, and we can just have that ref inside this swipeable component. So we can just pass that ref to this component, and it might be a little bit confusing, but the only thing that we are doing is just passing the ref here, so we can use the ref inside here in here. So now we have access to this ref object. What that means is that we can invoke the method, the open left method from the app.js file. So that's what we are doing. So we need to have that ref in some variable, and we can use a hook for that. We can use the use ref hook, and we can just declare that ref right here. So we can say swipes ref equals use ref. It's going to have an initial value, and the initial value is just going to be null. So we have our swipes ref, and now what we can do is just right here, we can just use that swipes ref that we have right here. And now we can use the reference to invoke that property of swipes. So we have our handlers. We have our handlers right here, and what's just going to happen is when we press like, what we need to do is use our swipes ref, that current. So this is a property inside that ref, and then we can invoke our methods that we have in this component. So what we are going to do is we're going to open the left card, right? We're going to open the left, even though we swipe to the right, we open the left. So that's what we are going to invoke, open left. And in the other case, we're going to open right. Will be the opposite. So we have our methods, and now it should work. So if we click here, you can see that we trigger the open of the swipeable. If we click here, it went to the left. So now it's working. So that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this content, and well, for now it's only the interface, but we can go further. If this video has some views, I can expand this application so it also has backend, so we can actually have this in a database and all of that. But for now, it's just this UI, and well, I hope you like the content, and I will see you in the next time.